With SRN News, I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. The Singapore Summit, scheduled for June 12th, is back on again. SRN News military affairs analyst Colonel Bob McGinnis on the U.S. goals for that summit.
To halt nuclear tests, to halt intermediate and long-range missile tests, to stop production of plutonium and highly enriched uranium. We want them to stop exporting any nuclear weapons or materials or technologies related to that.
An investigation continues in Denver where police say an Uber driver shot his passenger.
Our caller's an Uber driver stating he just shot a passenger.
The emergency response calls to that shooting recorded by Broadcastify.com.
Is the Uber driver the suspect? That's A firm. I believe he's our caller, stating he shot a passenger in his car.
Denver police say the Uber driver who fatally shot the passenger told a witness he opened fire after the passenger tried to attack him.
That's correspondent Julie Walker reporting. Black men with advanced prostate cancer fared surprisingly well in two new studies that challenge current thinking about racial disparities when it comes to treating that disease. Correspondent Lindsay Tanner.
Standard chemotherapy didn't greatly extend life. Both groups lived about 20 months after treatment, but when they took into account certain patient characteristics, blacks seemed to do a little bit better. And it is unclear why. The lead author of one of the studies from Duke University says that really needs to be studied more.
And blacks are more likely to get prostate cancer and die from it than whites, according to current statistics. In Missouri,
I, Michael L. Parson,
Lieutenant Governor Mike Parsons sworn in as the new governor.
Public service is a privilege, and it is truly an honor to serve as Missouri's 57th governor.
Parson replaces fellow Republican Governor Eric Greitens, who had been facing a possible impeachment. This is SRN News.
This is 620 AM KEXB, the business experts.
Welcome to Lon Dorsey on Business and Law. This is your place to get the answers on business and law from the professionals that know the topics. Host Lon Dorsey has interviewed thousands of attorneys during the decades he's done this show. Lon's candor and humor with attorneys, business people, and entrepreneurs on air makes for hundreds of memorable moments. In the past, his shows have been acknowledged by local bars, the Texas State Bar, the Dallas Bar, and many legal organizations and corporations throughout Texas. Your calls are welcome. To ask a question of Lon Dorsey or his guest today, call our show live at 214-787-1160. The show's live and lines are open now. Call 214-787-1160. And now, Lon Dorsey.
In 38 years, I have never done a show like we're going to do today. Welcome to On Business and Law. I'm Lon Dorsey. Thank you for joining us on KEXB AM 620. Texas, you folks in Oklahoma, Houston, we have a lot of people listening all over the United States. And I thank you for listening because today we're going to deal with a subject, well, a lot of people don't want to deal with it, but they're going to have to eventually. And the world has changed. The U.S. has changed. How many, no hands, but how many of you can say that what we are seeing in the United States today is what you would have thought? No, you can't say that. Nothing is as you would have thought it would be. There is racism. There are mass killings, 20, 30, 40, 50, 70, 100 people killed at one time. Police officers leveling guns and using up a complete clip of bullets on one individual and then reloading and continuing to fire. In our schools today, we have persons and persons going into a school, killing innocent children. Well, children are innocent anyway. That's a double thing. Murdering them, mowing them down. Okay. We have cops killing cops. There was something called black on black crime a few years ago. Does anybody remember that? Black on black crime. Nobody even talks about it anymore because it has been replaced with horrendous murders. Even the military cannot come up with a solution to murder more people than we're doing ourselves. So, rightfully so, I had to find someone who might be able to explain some of this. In the person of Karen Fleshman. She is an attorney in San Francisco Bay Area. And Karen believes that she is on to something. Let's see. Karen, welcome to On Business and Law.
Thank you, Lon. It's a delight to be here, and thank you to everybody who's listening.
I see here that you are we can't call you San Francisco based, and you're all over the place. I know your travel itinerary is maxing out. So you're not we won't let you be just in San Francisco, based in San Francisco. Anti-racism educator. You're an attorney. You're an activist. You're specializing in the transforming of workplaces. And I'm going to ask you about that. The transforming of workplaces so everyone can do his or her best work in building interracial sisterhood among women and femmes of all generations? What is that all about?
Wow. Well, first of all, Lon, thank you for that wonderful preamble. You're really building me up as someone who can solve a lot of extreme problems there. I hope I don't disappoint. But I do think that at the heart of all these problems in our society is racism. And there's a direct link between racism and gun culture and the kind of violence we're seeing in our society today. And I do believe that violence will not come to a halt until individuals in our society, and I'm talking white people, really start to transform ourselves and the way that we think about ourselves, the way we relate with other people, what we tell our children, and how we transform the institutions in our sphere of influence. And I think that principal institution that needs to change is the workplace. And how I come to the workplace, if you'd like me to talk about how I come to the workplace. So my whole career, as you mentioned, I'm based now in San Francisco, but I was born and raised in Colorado.
San Francisco, Texas, yes. San Francisco, Texas. That's a new thing that's coming, people. San Francisco, Texas. It's a mega city, stretching thousands of miles. But yes.
Yeah. So I lived in Texas, actually. I attended the University of Texas for my master's degree and stayed in Austin for 5 years. Then I lived in New York City for 15 years. Yeah. I just came to San Francisco 6 years ago. But what I observed in all of these communities, my career was the early part of the career was in the immigrants' rights movement, and I later shifted focus to workforce development. I was working for the city of New York when a report came out that said 50% of black men in New York City don't have a job, and 170,000 young adult New Yorkers, almost entirely Black and Latinx, are not in school and not working. And it really struck me that here I was, this white, college-educated young adult who had moved to New York City, and I just had limitless career opportunities available to me, And that's why people come to these cities from all over the country, all over the world, whether you're talking Austin, New York, San Francisco, same thing in all these cities. But the people who were born and raised in these communities, many of whom are people of color, are completely locked out of the same opportunities that people like me who move to these cities are able to pursue. And I dedicated my career from that point to really helping young people, young adults who didn't have a college degree to prepare for corporate careers in tech. And I dedicated myself to that work. And it was through that work when I became a mentor to young adults going through the program that I came to understand that the heart of the problem is really racism. And that basically everything I had learned about racism growing up in the all-white community where I grew up was wrong. And I had to really reprogram myself. And it was all of that in 2014, a couple of things. That the non-indictment of Darren Wilson for killing Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. The idea that Michael Brown's death didn't even warrant a trial. That really hit me very, very hard. And a few weeks after that, I was out to brunch with two young Black women who are graduates of the workforce training program I used to work for. And they were working at this point for tech companies. They've been there for a couple of years. And they're telling me, Karen, we're super grateful for our lifestyles and the incomes and all of that. But every single day at work, we are being microaggressed. Our own managers are telling us stuff like, we just hired you because you're Black, or you're really not qualified to do this. These terrible things, even as the companies had them all over their marketing material saying, look at all the great stuff we're doing for the community. And that was when those two things really gave me pause. And I realized, there are a lot of people like me who grew up in all-white communities and are now living, working, leading, managing in these very diverse, multicultural cities. And I want to help people like me understand how to be better managers, how to be better citizens, how to really align. I think many of us are well-intentioned in our heart, but we've been done such a disservice by what we learned about racism growing up that we don't know how to make our daily behaviors align with our beliefs. And that's you say, Karen, that your goal is to persuade 10% of white women, white millennials, and white Generation Z individuals to flip anti-racist, so they can have a majority anti-racist what? Generation. Yeah. So they can have an anti-racist. So 10% of the white women, white men. You didn't mention white men. Well, I did count white men in the millennials and in the Generation Z. Right. Okay. The reason why I target white women. They have the children. Yes, we have the children. We're the ones explaining. We're the ones teaching our children. Let me stop you right here. We're going to take a break and come right back with Karen Fleshman, attorney. I really like this.
You're listening to 620 AM, KEXB.
Did you know that if you have common law status, that under some conditions, your marital status may not be recognized as valid in the United States? Many are separated from their families and return to their home country, leaving their loved ones here to brave the hardships without recourse. But there is hope. Attorney Kenneth G. Wincorn can help. Call and find out how to avert this catastrophe. Call 214-630-1221 or visit wincorn.com. That's WINCORN.com. Wincorn.com.
Is your home ready for the summer? Do you have ugly green and black stains on your home? Spray and Forget, the original no-rinse exterior cleaner, eliminates these ugly stains caused by mold, mildew, and algae. Spray and Forget brilliantly cleans roofs, decks, siding, fencing, walkways, driveways, outdoor furniture, and more. Remove stains up to 50% faster than competing no-rinse cleaners. Make your home and outdoor living spaces brilliant again. Look for the yellow label at participating Ace, Home Depot, True Value, and Do It Best stores.
Experts in Business. 620 AM. KEXB.
My guest is Karen Fleshman. Learn to know that name. She's a great attorney. She's traveled all over the place. And she is trying to do something. Karen, before I turn you loose on the world again, I want to say one thing. You know, we're animals. I was at my home looking down at the sidewalk, and I got down on my knees to take a closer look, and there was an ant with large mandibles cutting another ant in two. Oh, boy. He was severing the ant in two, a smaller ant, obviously. Not obviously, but it was a smaller ant. Might have been a female. I don't think it was. I think it was two males. And he cut the ant in two. I thought, OMG. That must have hurt. You have to know this, that the ant that was being severed was not enjoying it. He was not enjoying it. And people who are shot multiple times are not having a good day. Someone suggested that when you start talking about people of color, I got to ask you something about that too, that maybe they should start thinking people of Hebrew extraction. And maybe Deuteronomy chapter 28, which is how they got here in the first place. And then Jesse Jackson changed the name to African American, and they were never Africans, Americans. And you are peeling. I'm going to give you accolades that came from Louis Farrakhan. He said, peeling back the skin, the onion skin of senility. Because that's what you're doing. You have a very sharp knife, and you're peeling it back, getting to the origin of what this is all about. And I do know that Jane Elliott, the anti-racism, you're the only attorney that I know who stood on this platform. She's a school teacher. She was a school teacher. And she did things a lot differently. I think she tried to reason with the mentalities of people. You're saying you want to change it. You want to change that card. So when we went on break, you were saying. So continue if you can from that point.
Sure. So why do I target white millennials, white Generation Z, and white women? Was that the question you wanted me to answer?
10% that you wanted to, so we can have a majority anti-racist. So what you're saying is we have a majority racist generation right now. And we need to have a majority anti-racist generation.
Yes. I believe that we, 43% of American millennials are people of color. 47%.
Now, when you say people of color, you're it's being denoted that they are a color, not a race.
Yes.
Okay.
They are a color.
So are they not also a race? But you don't know what race they are. People don't know what race. See, here's the thing. Yeah. People don't know that these people that they call colored, African American, Negro, and all these other names are from Northeast Israel. They were brought here on slave ships down through Africa, down through the west coast of Africa, and brought to various parts of the world on slave ships. They're Hebrews, but everybody calls them a color. So, it's kind of like they don't call you Karen because you are Karen and you're in the flesh. I kind of made a funny there. Karen Fleshman, in the flesh, living color, in living color. They identify your clothes. They don't identify Karen. They say, we're not talking about Karen. We're talking about her clothes. There's a red dress she's wearing. There's a beautiful red dress. There's a blue gown. But they don't get to the person. They only get to the outer core of what is seen, not what is unseen and what is known and what is historical. So continue on, but when we start talking about people of color, the color I don't think matters, but you're saying something else that we need to hear. So continue, please.
Yeah. Well, I wish color didn't matter, right? And it is what, we are all one race, the human race. The amount of our DNA that determines what our skin color looks like, what our hair texture is a teeny, teeny, tiny fraction of our DNA. We are much more alike than we are different. But way back in the 1500s, Spanish and Portuguese priests came up with this idea of the doctrine of discovery and creating this racial hierarchy and
that's funny too.
Way of dominating other countries.
That's funny because that was in the 1500s, and 10,000 years ago, there were black men who were talking about all kinds of things, and none of that came into view. So is that some kind of new teaching that they were using to try to persuade those of us who are alive now that was really what was happening? Or is it that we were miseducated? And that's what you're doing now. You're re-educating us on what the truth is about this thing. And we were miseducated in the 1500s because between the 1500s and the 1800s, that's when all this mess got started.
Yeah.
I'll say okay, let me put it this way. Between 1000 and 1800, that's 800 years, we had all this mess come about. We have about 5 minutes. I'm going to turn it back over to you because you're on the cutting edge of. I don't know where you're going, Karen. I have no clue. But
well, now So to go back in history, I'm very influenced by this wonderful scholar, Dr. Ibram Kendi. He wrote the book Stamped from the Beginning, The Definitive History of Racist Ideas in America.
Mm-hmm.
And I highly recommend that everybody read that book. It is a tome. But Dr. Kendi says, before he studied the history of racism, he thought that racism was really born out of fear and ignorance. But when he went back and really understood, really looked at how did racist ideas originate, it wasn't out of fear and ignorance.
No, it wasn't.
It was out of self-interest.
Exactly.
That certain, white men with elite status realized that if they could convince everyone that there was a racial hierarchy and that the natural place of white people was at the top of this hierarchy, and then they could genocide other people, they could enslave other people.
Really funny because it used to be the black people who were at the top. So, yeah.
And keep us all divided from one another.
Exactly.
And accumulate tremendous wealth and power and perpetuate that. And when you go back and you look at how that shows up in the Declaration of Independence, how that shows up in the
everywhere.
Constitution, how our founding fathers, we have these stories that we know about our founding fathers, like
Slave
about
owners.
George Washington, how he was so honest that he couldn't chop down the cherry tree. Well, does anyone tell us the story about how George Washington was obsessed with retrieving his runaway slave who escaped to New Hampshire? And he would send
the now police department. That's where the police came from, was slave catchers.
Where the police came from, yes.
Yeah,
So
1801,
that's
they became the police force in America. And now they used to chase down slaves. Now they're chasing down everybody. In other words, if your position in life, if you're not a slave, you are a slave master. If you're not a slave master, then you're this. If you're not that, you're that. And at any time, a wild card is a police officer. They can shoot anybody down because they're not going to get prosecuted yet.
That's
now.
it.
That's why I say, what are you doing? Because you must have a formula.
A formula?
I think
part of what I do is to teach this history, to really help us understand that a lot of the things we learned in school about our history is not the full picture, and that there's this whole other history.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I teach is the science of unconscious bias and how our minds really work and how these strategies that our parents taught us, treat everybody fairly, be colorblind, are actually contrary to the way our minds work. And that is rooted in scientific fact. When they studied 6,000 police officers and they showed them images of boys, young boys, and the police officers, the whiter that the boys were, the more accurately the police officers would guess their age and their height and their weight. The blacker the boys were, the more their guesses of their age, weight, and height.
We have about 30. We have about 30 seconds. Totally interesting, totally factual, totally, and we'll be back with more of Karen Fleshman. You're in San Francisco now. Don't go away. This is on Business and Law.
You're listening to 620 AM, KEXB.
It changed my life forever.
Harvest America.
Life changing. I found God.
I came and I felt it. I love it.
Be a part of Harvest America with Greg Laurie, Sunday, June 10th. Find out how to find peace by making peace with God.
You come home
God will run to you.
Find the hope you're looking for and answers to life's toughest questions.
It's such a great feeling.
Don't miss Harvest America with Greg Laurie, Sunday, June 10th, with great music from Crowder, Bill Wickham, Chris Tomlin, and Greg Laurie welcomes other special guests.
Harvest America.
Harvest America at AT&T Stadium.
Don't miss this life-changing event. Harvest America, Sunday, June 10th. Details at harvestamerica.com. Hear Greg Laurie's message of hope.
God cares about you. He has a plan for you.
Get the details at harvestamerica.com.
So here's a great question. How much would you save if you joined MediShare for your healthcare program? The typical savings for a family is about $500 a month. You might save more. Tammy left a major company and needed a new way ahead for her family. She'd heard about the savings with MediShare, but was wondering about the network of providers.
Once we started the program, I have not had to switch one doctor for myself or for my kids. So all the doctors that we were previously with were all in MediShare.
And she says the process has been fantastic.
I got off the phone and I was like, that's what it should be like. It was a pleasurable experience. An encouraging experience at that.
MediShare might be just the thing you're looking for your family, your budget. Use the savings for other things. Why not get your questions answered? Find out how much you can save. You can call right now. 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE. 844-41-BIBLE.
From Wall Street to North Texas, this is 620 AM, KEXB.
You will see on my Facebook page a picture of the beautiful Karen Fleshman. You'll see it on my LinkedIn page, and I know a lot of you people on Facebook really, really warm up to this show, and you do comments and everything. Well, that's Karen. Also on LinkedIn and the pages for Professional Lawyer Review and on Business and Law, there's a page there. She's on all of those, and you can start there and move to her website. And Karen, I'm going to have you give the website simply because my page is stuck here at the station. I probably stuck it, but
www.racyconversations.com. So that's RACY conversations.com.
Okay. Now, you were saying also, I got to get back to the page where I was. You were saying also, in addition to the 10% figure, that you want to train people in corporations. You want to get classes. Do you set up the classes in the corporations, or do you bring them off site, or do you train them right where they are?
I usually train them right where they are. I mean, ideally, I would love to get corporations to get off site and go out into the community.
Yes.
But typically, they want it's costly for corporations to do live in-person training and in terms of the number of hours that people take away from work. So it's harder to get them off and into the community.
Let's
yes,
look at that. Let's
that
look
is
at that for a
what
moment.
I do. Sexual harassment as well as employment discrimination training.
Let's look at that just for a moment. Let's slow down. We have a lot of time here so far. It's clicking off, but as time, I got to have you come back because this ain't going to happen with one show, I'll tell you people. But taking people off site gets their minds off of work, especially emergencies. And it's not just the employees who may be racist. It may be the employee heads themselves.
Yes. Yeah. I really encourage that the training be for everybody at the company, including the security guard, including the receptionist, including the custodian. Everybody needs this training for it to really be effective.
Not only that, I'm just going to offer a few suggestions. It's hard to train a CEO in the presence of their subordinates. I think you're going to have, and you probably already do, I'm just talking here. It's what I do. You're going to have the CEOs and the management people in a racism format. And then you have the security people because they have a different way of looking at things and have them in a format. And then, of course, the everyday employees who are harmless, they used to be, until they picked up automatic weapons and went into nightclubs and schools. Then they became dangerous.
That's so true. So some of my clients, I do what you're saying. Like one of my clients that I'm working with right now, I've done separate training for everybody who works at the company, for the managers, and now for the C-suite executives. And I've encouraged the C-suite executives to participate in those other trainings as well. But they have different level of responsibility and different kind of mandates. And often they're not going to feel real comfortable, in a room with everybody in the company. Right. But what you find is that at most companies, the majority of people of color are in the more entry-level, lower ranks within the company. Often they tend to be younger. So if you're exclusively working with the executive level team, you may not have very many people of color in the training. So I think it's important for them to hear the perspective.
Let's get off of people of color. I know you want to do it right.
Yes,
let's get off of people of color. I don't like that. I don't like it. Let's say I don't like African American either. Jesse Jackson, I'm sorry. That was 22 years ago. A whole race of people cannot be defined by 22 years of also racism. Because to call somebody anything other than what they are, which these people are Hebrews from Africa, Northeast Africa, that's where they were caught and put on ships. That's where they were handcuffed and neck choked and all of that. And they did not speak English. So how could they be African Americans? And no color speaks a language, I don't think. So call them what they are. They're Hebrews. And then down in Louisiana, they got signs down there, Hebrews for sale, Heboos. They couldn't spell it, but they could sell them. And these people built America. So, now they're something. But let's just say, if we don't want to call them Hebrews, let's call them blacks, because people of color is a kind thing to say. You're being very kind, but let's say blacks, and then some are not going to like that. See, we've always had that problem, because I epitomize that statement or statements of all kinds, trying to figure out what to call black people. So this is good. You brought that out too. I mean, you're just a powerhouse. How tall are you?
I'm 5'4".
I see what I mean. 5'4" woman telling all these top executives that they'd better get their acts together, or else heads are going to roll. And you're saying, and what is your time frame? Do you know yet? What is your time frame on taking these 10%? How long do you think it's going to take if you take 10% of the white women, the millennials, or whatever, and you work on this and you have everything the way you want it? When will racism slow down, if not stop? Okay, let me back up. When will cops stop shooting people multiple times and take them to jail?
Yeah, the cops thing is really hard. You know, I haven't talked about that on this interview, but that is the major focus of my activism. I serve on the work group overseeing the implementation of the U.S. Department of Justice recommendations on ending bias at the San Francisco Police Department. We have a real problem in the state of California with our police because they have organized themselves into these unions and formed a lobbying group, and they're allied with the correctional officers union. And so they're really
they're their own people
policies.
now.
Yeah.
The robots have taken over the world.
Taken over the world. And we have the highest rates of death by police in the country, in the state of California. People think of California as this liberal, hippy-dippy place. Well, not really when it comes
not
to
anymore. You have several factions in each state. And each state has its own atmosphere and its own life and its own livability. So in California, you have a certain thing. In Texas, you have a certain thing that the atmosphere of the state is known by.
Yeah.
Because the state is the living organism now. You know, we didn't see it as that, but it is. So go on. Yeah.
All of it, you know, why do we have so much police killing? It comes down to the Supreme Court and their decision, Graham v. O'Connor, when they said, you know, we're not going to second guess police, basically.
They're perfect.
A police officer under the law can use the amount of threat that he or she, the amount of force that he or she feels is necessary that a reasonable officer would find necessary to control the threat to him or herself, to the suspect, or to the public.
So you got all of these different, say, ballpoint pens, and all of them have ink, and you can pick the one that you want: the red ink, or the blue ink, or the green ink, or the the black ink. Now, all of those spell death, but you have 4 reasons that you can attribute the death to. And it doesn't have to be any of the 4.
Right.
So then you got all kinds of other things. And then if you know you're not going to be prosecuted anyway, then you can say, stop resisting. But it's not the police that are the factions here. It's not the police who are the persons who are wrong in this. It is the system that gave the power. Let's look at Terminator, those robot deals there. It wasn't the robots, because remember, they turned them all off. It was the power that the villain was after. He wanted more power, more electricity, so that he could run his robots. And so he built a power system that couldn't be shut down, remember?
Yes.
Well, they shut it down. They're trying to shut us down. We have 1 minute in this segment, and then we're going to come back and really, really look at what Karen has here. She has something. I don't know what. It's multifaceted. It's congruent. It's everything, because it's the beginning of doing right, what we call doing right. So, Karen, we're going to take a short break here. I want to line up a few more questions for you as we do. We'll take a break. This is Karen Fleshman. She's in San Francisco. We'll be back in a moment. I'm Lon Dorsey on Business and Law.
620 AM, KEXB. experts in business in North Texas.
Would your social group like to get out of town? Dreams Come True Travel has you covered with special group rates. Want to go by train and just see new sights? Take a stateside tour or go to another country. Want to go on a breathtaking once-in-a-lifetime honeymoon? They have just the destination for you. Or you pick the place and they'll get you there with emphasis on the Christian travel. President Milton Wallace is also CEO of All Nations Christian Television Network. Hashtag All Nations TV and Dreams Come True Travel has several wonderful cruises yearly. Here are two of the upcoming cruises. Join us for our July 21st wonderful 7-day cruise for two to the beautiful, sparkling, and sun-drenched waters of Jamaica with fares starting at just $2,020 per couple. And join us for our November 8th cruise departing Galveston for continental Mexico. This is part of our Thanksgiving, Christmas, or Honeymooner cruises that will also see the clear waters and the coral reefs of Cozumel, starting at $960 per couple. To book your cruise today, call 940-368-4886. That's 940-368-4886.
Your experts in business throughout North Texas. 620 AM, KEXB.
Again, my special guest is, I don't know, maybe Karen Fleshman is not the name. Maybe it's Karen Luther King or somebody, or
Oh, God.
maybe it's Karen Fleshman Elliott. You know, you're a composition of so many things that I've heard since I was a child on doing right. We used to call right. Now right is not right. Right is whatever someone wants it to be. And I'm going to come back to Karen in just a minute. We have quite a bit, kind of, twisty here. It's quite a bit of time, but not that much. I just want to say something about Dreams Come True Travel Agency. These people, I wanted to just say it personally, these people are wonderful folks. I've been hearing their commercials on the show for quite some time. I've looked into it. Milton Wallace is a wonderful man. You know, his mother passed away just a couple of months ago, I think. And I was talking with him. They have horses and all that out on his ranch. Oh, yes. And I was talking with him, and he shared time with me while he was taking care of his mother's arrangements. Can you believe that? That is stellar. And they have All Nations TV, a Christian television network. And if you folks want to get the things that you're doing out to the public, if you want to promote what you're doing on All Nations TV, they have it down, and I understand that the price is right. Well, on Business and Law is going to be on there. I mean, if it's good enough for me, it ought to be good enough for you. So you might want to call All Nations TV. Look on Google, look up All Nations TV or Milton Wallace. He's also on Facebook, and he's on LinkedIn. Or call the station here, 787-214-787-1160. Leave your phone number, and I will get you his contact information because we care that much about All Nations TV and about Dreams Come True Travel. And they have some wonderful cruises. Now, I was in the Air Force. I'm a veteran now. Okay, I don't swim much, but I might take one of these cruises. You let me know when you're going to go, and I might go with you. I'll feel better that way. I'll probably feel a lot better after I kind of get out on the water and see the sharks and everything out there. They say it's very, very beautiful, you know, but I'm a fly boy. But I think I'm going to take the Cozumel cruise. It's $900. I think I'm going to take that and just relax. So you call All Nations TV, also call Dreams Come True Travel, and talk with the folks there and take a cruise. You have my permission. Karen, let's go back to what we have here, what you're doing. I'm looking at your web page. Describe to our audience what I'm seeing here on your web page, things that you want to point out.
Sure. So companies and organizations hire me to come in and do an assessment of what's going on there and then design some customized training to help people learn how to relate with one another at work. I work with all levels of the organization, from individual contributors to managers. I help managers develop inclusive leadership skills. I help executives work on their role modeling, their executive presence, their succession plans, sponsorship, mentorship, all of that.
Let me break in. Let's talk money.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk. This is worth it, people. Do you have a link or something where people can donate or can contribute or can? How much do you charge for these for the service?
Well, it depends on the level of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
A 4-hour workshop is generally $4,000.
Okay. How many people can you handle in a workshop that size?
I like to cap it at about 60 max, and my preference is to do about 40 people at a time.
So that means that these people take in all of this information,
mm-hmm.
and then they go and spread it, kind of like Christianity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, I think you're overkill, because Jesus only had 13 and one went bad, so 12, and he spread all over the world. You could actually stop racism in other countries. This is stellar. But go on, continue. We got about 5 minutes.
Thank you. I also do.
Blew your mind, didn't I?
Yes, you did blow my mind. I do sexual harassment training as well, because I think that is an important aspect of how we relate to one another at work. Mm-hmm. And I try to get beyond sort of the, typical, don't do this, don't do that, this is sexual harassment, to really helping people to understand how to relate with one another at work. And how can you perhaps express interest in someone you work with in a way that's not going to amount to harassment?
Right.
Same thing with the anti-racism. It's not just, you are racist, you are bad,
It has divisions of understanding. Let me ask you this. We have about 4 minutes left in the show, probably about 3 minutes. So let's talk money. Okay, can a corporation contact you and say, okay, we want your training here. I have 60 people. I have 60 troublemakers. Okay, I'm going to try them out on you. And so they contact you. What's a good contact number?
In my website is the contact.
Okay, so
on my website, yeah.
Okay, RacyConversations.com.
Yep.
Racy, R-A-C-Y. God, everybody knows how to spell conversations. But it's a S on. There's an S on conversation. It's not conversation. It's conversations.com. RacyConversations.com. Then you go and you click, to have about services, speaking, writing, backbone, work together. Where do you get the?
Yes, if you click on work together, then it takes you to the contact form for me.
Okay, got you. Work together. I just clicked that. You have a wonderful site. It's very easy. Oh, yeah. And just scroll down, coaching, online training, speaking, assessment. You do speaking engagements. Okay, coaching, in-person group training. Okay. And then right here, name, email address, why you're interested in working together. Availability to chat by phone. Okay. Pacific Standard Time. Then you're on LinkedIn and you're on Twitter. And there are 2 icons there that you can click on. You prefer not to be contacted by phone initially.
Yes, I do because I would like.
Are there threats on your life?
A lot of angry people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are there threats on your life?
Yes, I get a lot of very scary messages and things of that nature.
You won't get any from anybody listening to my show. If you do, let me know. If you get any scary messages from anybody from my show, I'll rub them out. I promise you. I'll give them a thing they can't never forget. That's my Godfather voice. Is it pretty good? Is it scary? Okay, my Godfather voice
that was
is not
very scary, Lon.
It's not scary. It's comical. Okay, I got it. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a family?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, children, nice little children. They're school age or just born or 40, 50 years old.
Yeah, they're pretty young. Again, I don't like to draw a lot of attention to them.
Attention to that. Right. Well, dear, even if you do or you don't, people who want to do bad to you, they automatically go there anyway. So just brave up.
That's right. That's right.
Just
yeah.
brave. We don't. But look, you're in this thing for the long haul. I appreciate you. I want you back on the show. Give an email address.
Email Karen@KarenFleshman.com.
Good. You're a great attorney. You're making a difference. Final statement.
I just urge everybody to look deep within their hearts. We had a very successful movement 50 years ago to ban discrimination, but unfortunately, discrimination is pervasive in our society, and we need to change our hearts and minds.
Thank you. That's all the time we have. Don't forget to email Karen. Don't forget to go to the site. All the social media. This is Lon Dorsey. I've thoroughly enjoyed this particular show. We'll see you next week on Business and Law.
Thanks.
This has been Lon Dorsey on Business and Law, your place for the answers on business and law from the professionals that know the topics. Host Lon Dorsey has interviewed thousands of attorneys during the decades he has done this show. If you're an attorney and want to participate, call Lon Dorsey on Business and Law Guest Relations at 713-530-8188. You may also email Lon Dorsey at lcsmi@yahoo.com. Listen to Lon Dorsey on Business and Law every Saturday at 1 p.m. right here at 6:20 a.m. Experts in Business.
Hi, I'm Brian Glenn, host of In the Know. Join me weekdays from 3 to 5 right here on 6:20 a.m. KEXP. This is the one show that will get you thinking, from politics to pop culture, from Wall Street to your street. We dive into the topics that people are talking about. So tune in to my show, In the Know, weekdays from 3 to 5 right here on 6:20 a.m. KEXP, your experts in business.
The following is a true story.
My name is David Bryant. When I was 37, my wife and I decided to get term life insurance through SelectQuote. Just 3 years later, I was diagnosed with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Because of life insurance, the people I love most in this world will be protected no matter what happens to me. I know that the dreams I have for my family can still come true. Financial security, to stay in the home we became a family in, and for our children to be able to go to college. I reached out to SelectQuote because I wanted to share my story. If just one person purchases life insurance, I know I will have made a difference.
SelectQuote can find a 37-year-old male a $500,000 policy